Okay guys, you're welcome to this course, Design Easy using Photoshop. This is the course for you, either you're a graphic designer or you're a photographer dealing with Photoshop. This course is absolutely for you. A lot of us find Photoshop to be technical and difficult, such that the only thing we use it for is to either remove background or to create mock-up. Not even to create mock-up, to edit mock-up, because if you can use your Photoshop to create mock-up, then I'm not sure if it is something technical to you any longer. So without any further ado, we are going to dive into action now by looking into this particular course in detail. Okay, give me some minutes to check something. Okay, fine. So let's go into Photoshop. Here we are in Photoshop. In Photoshop, you are going to be spending your time in two places, and those two places include the home screen and the workspace. Here is the home screen. I think when I'm on data now, I would have deleted all this previous work that I've done. Then you are going to see this place to be blank. Are we together now? Okay, now that I have all of this now, here are my previous designs. Any design that you save on your system that you've worked on, you always find them in your home screen. And if you have not designed anything or saved anything with your Photoshop, this place will be blank. Okay, if you click on this Photoshop icon, you are going to meet yourself in your workspace. So this is your workspace now. These are your tools and every other thing that you are going to be needing in your workspace. Now you are going to be spending more of your time in your workspace instead of your home screen. You spend less time in your home screen, you spend more time in your workspace. If you want to take yourself back to the home screen, just click on this home screen icon. Once you click on it, it takes you back there. Now, before we start looking at Photoshop in detail, what is Photoshop? Photoshop is a software that is designed to edit or to create anything that has to do with pixels. I'll take it again. Photoshop is a software designed to edit or to create anything that has to do with pixel. What is pixel? I'll let us understand what we call pixel now. Let me quickly create a document, and I'm going to give this my document a very large amount of pixels. This 3000 by 3000 pixels. We are coming back to this place to know how to create a document, but just for us to understand what we call document, that's the essence of this one that I want to do. Okay, quick one. Let me pick out some image in my file. Okay, so let me just check and pick out image so that we can actually use the image for a better explanation. So let me go for this. So I'll just drag it into my Photoshop document. So here is the image that I have here. Okay, you can see this particular image now. If I zoom this image, let's assume that I zoom it, you guys see, can you see now, you know, this image now has pixelate. You can see all these small box now. These are what we refer to as pixels. This small box, you can see it's a color here, it's another color here, it's another color here. These are what we call pixels. You can see the extent at which I zoom this thing before it become pixelated. Now these are the things that makes up this image. Let me take it back to normal. You can see this image is very clear now, right? But if I zoom it, the more I zoom it, you can see it's getting pixelated gradually. is getting pixelated gradually. Can you see? So these are what actually make up this particular image. Pixels are those small blocks that made up an image. Now if you check down here, you are going to see that we have 3000 by 3000 pixels. 3000 by 3000 pixels is telling you how much more that is how much pixels that you have in that particular image. The first one is telling you that at this horizontal level, that is horizontally like this, you have 3000 pixels. Vertically, you have 3000 pixels. By the time you multiply 3000 multiplied by 3000, you are going to be having something approximately 90, I think that should be 9 million. Yeah, you're going to be having 9 million pixels. So it shows that this particular image is made up of 9 million pixels, and that's why you can see that it's sharp. So the brightness, the quality of your image is depending on the pixels. If you have small amount of pixels, then the quality of your image will be what? Will be very small. Let's take for instance that I want to create another document and I want to change the pixels to 300 by 300 pixels. Now here is a 300 by 300 pixels. You can actually check the numbers of pixels or the size of your documents at the down part here. Can you see this now? This 300 pixels. If I take my image, let me take this particular image down to this place, then you get to see what will happen. So I'm coming. So you get to see what will happen now. Okay, so here is the image. Okay, you can see even without me zooming it, I've not even zoomed it yet. You can see that the image is pixelated already. Okay, so let me increase the size. Can you see it has not even go far before it starts pixelating? Are you seeing it now? So the number of pixels that I have here is just 9,000 pixels. Are you getting this now? I only have what? 9,000 pixels here because this is a 300 by 300 pixels. So you cannot compare it with this particular one here. You can see the difference between the two images. They are the same image, but they have different amount of what? Pixels. So when you are asking your colleague what size should I put this social media, every social media, they just have to do with ratio. That's the size. The size that you are going to put on any social media has to do with ratio. But the pixels, the amount of pixels that you need to put there is your choice. How bright do you want your designs to be? If you put it to be 1080 by 1080, it's fine. Are you getting this now? That's to tell you that, okay, this is the amount of zoom that this particular social network can take. Are you getting this now? You can decide to put it as 3000 pixels by 3000 pixels. That make your design more sharp and bright. Are you getting this now? I know we are going to be like, are we here to learn pixel? No. But there is something you need to understand about the pixels. That is why we are starting by explaining pixel. Okay? So now that we have understand how pixels actually comes together to form a sharp image and to form a dull image. Now, why are we actually talking about pixels when we are actually here to learn Photoshop? The reason is because any material that is made up of pixels or any graphics that is made up of pixels, they are called raster graphics. So that is any design that you are making with Photoshop, any design that you want to create using Photoshop is known as raster graphics. And any image that is made up of what? Pixels, they are referred to as raster image. And this is the reason why you will see that design made with Photoshop used to be very sharp and more appealing compared to design made with any other software. Do you know why? Because those designs that we refer to as marketing designs, such as social media design, web design, all those things, they are just there static. You want to be seeing them as a picture. Are you getting this now? And that is why you need a raster software to create those kind of images. Are you getting where I'm coming from now? So you'll be asking me, is there any type of what graphics, another type of graphics aside from the raster graphics? Yes, we have the vector graphics. Photoshop creates what? Raster graphics. Why? Other software like Adobe Illustrator or CorelDRAW, they produce what? Vector graphics. Now, what's the difference between vector graphics and the raster graphics? The difference between the vector graphics and raster graphics is that a raster graphics is made up of what? Pixels. While vector graphics is made up of mathematical calculation. Are you getting this now? Vector graphics are mathematical in nature, and that is why when you have one of them and you zoom and zoom and zoom and zoom, they can never pixelate. Are you getting this now? But raster graphics, once you zoom and zoom and zoom, when it gets to their maximum point, they start pixelated. Do we understand that now? So that is that about that. Now let's dive into Photoshop. In Photoshop, you only need to learn three things. You only need to know what? Three things in Photoshop. Just like an artist. An artist only need what? Three things to carry out his imagination. Are you getting this now? And what are those things? One, the artist need what? Two, the artist need what? Palette. And the artist need a canvas. The tools such as the pen or the painting brush. The palette such as probably the colors she wants to mix, every blah blah thing that she wants to use to spice her designs up. Then the canvas, the actual place where she's getting the work done. Maybe a page of book or a canvas paper. Anyone. The same thing goes to you that you want to use Photoshop. You also have these three things, and those three things include what? Your tools, which are these ones that you have here. Here are your tools that you have in Photoshop, and then your panel. Photoshop has different type of panel. You have the layer panel, adjustment panel, the library panel, you have the text panel, the brush panel, a lot of panel that I will be showing us when we open the documents now. And lastly, you have your workspace. Are you getting this now? Which is also called what? Canvas. For you to understand what I'm saying better, let's create a document. Now, going back to the home screen, because here is your home screen. You come down to create a document. When you click on creating a document, what is going to show you are the previous document size that you've worked on, and these are the previous document size that I've worked on, but I want to choose another size entirely. So I'll come down to this place and set up my document. The first thing I want to do is to write the name of the document. The second thing I want to do is to set the numbers of the pixels that I actually need in my design. Okay, I like my design to be very sharp. Let me just put it to be a normal one, which is 1080 by 1080, which is the maximum zoom level of Instagram post. Then I'll change my resolution to 300. Don't worry, I'll be talking about resolution in another video in detail, so that you understand how resolution actually affects the quality of your design. A lot of designers already cram it that 72 pixel is for the screen, 150 pixel is for screen, 300 is for picture. Just don't worry. As a designer that wants to be pro in this field, don't cram anything, but understand everything. So don't cram. Why we use 300 resolution? Why we use 72? Why we use what is resolution itself? We'll talk about it as we move on. Don't worry, just focus on what we are actually after here. Now you have two color mode, RGB and CMYK. Okay, and also you have a grayscale. If I open the color palettes now, we have bitmap, we have grayscale, RGB, CMYK, and lab color. And I'm very sure you are only conversant with two, and that's the RGB and the CMYK. It's fine. I'll be discussing color with us in the class other than this place, but as for now, let's go for RGB. Okay, so every other thing here can leave this to be default. Your background contents, do you want it to be black, do you want it to be just worry? Let's leave this to be white. So create document. Okay, right now, okay, I'm coming, sorry, something went wrong there. Okay, create a new document. Okay, sorry, I want to put this as 1080 by 1080. Okay, so create. So here now, this white space is my Canva, that is my workspace. Anything I want to do will be done on this place. Now I can change this background color, this my workspace color, if I don't like it. All I just need to do is to right click. If I right click, if I put it on default, it's going to show me a gray color like this, and I can change this to black if I want, and if I want, I can change this to dark gray, which is the default. If I want, I can change this to light gray. You can see what I'm having. If I want, I can customize my size. You can see this is blue. If I don't want blue, I can select another costume color. I can decide to change this to red. It's my choice, and you can see. So you can change your workspace to any color that suits you. Are you getting this now? So it's your workspace, but I like my own to be at default, which is the dark gray. Now coming down to this place, you have your tools, which is what you actually want to know how to use them. And like I said earlier, I said as an artist or a designer that want to make use of Photoshop, you only want to use three things: your tools, your palette. Your palette in this case are the channel. Are you getting this now? Are you getting this? You get where I'm coming from now? Your palette in this case are what? Are your channels. Are you getting this now? Then we have the third one, which is your what? Your Canva. Am I making sense now? Now, if my working space might be different from yours, reason being that I have set this to be something that I like based on what I usually use in my design. But let me set this to a default. I'll go to window and come down to this place, workspace. Then come down to, you can see that it's already in the essential. Essential is the default, but let me reset to essential. But before I go on, if you want to work on 3D graphics, you can work on 3D workspace. We have the graphic and web workspace, we have motion workspace, we have painting workspace, we have photography workspace. There are different type of workspace here depending on what you want to use your Photoshop to do. If you want to use this to edit picture, then you need to be on photography workspace. If you want to do painting, if you actually want to enjoy the painting very well, you have to be on painting workspace, and so on like that. Right now, since I'm just using this to create a raster graphic, so I would like to be on essential. So let me reset the essential so that you get to see what it's going to look like. Can you see what it is? Fine. Now here I have my tools. I have the choice of making it to be in 2 layers, and I also have the choice to let it be just on a straight line like this, depending on what I like. But I like them being side by side. So for you to put it side by side, just click on this key that looks like the fast forward button. So click on it, then you can see them side by side. Now there are more tools that you might actually be looking for. If you cannot find them here, look at these 3 dots. Just click on it. Once you click on it, you get to see other tools. Okay, so click on the edit. You can see here are other tools that you might not find in this place. So, and should in case you don't want a particular tools out of the ones you have here, you can see here are more tools. In case you don't see a particular tools that you want there, you can just come down to this place and pick the tool. And if there's a particular tool that you have here but you don't want it to be there, you can also do the same thing by removing it. Click on it and drag it to this place, exist tool. Are you getting it now? But I want my lasso tool back. So any tool you don't want, just drag it to this place. It's not necessary you pack everything out. So, and when you are okay, you click on what? Done. Is that taken out? And let's take for instance that you have scattered everything based on the fact that you are trying to know how things work here, and you scattered everything. There's no problem. Once you scattered everything and you don't understand how to go about it again, just come down to this place again and click on what? Reset, restore defaults. So it's going to take you back to the way it was initially. I believe we are clear with that aspect. Now here we have different layouts. Like I told you earlier, we have different channels here. This place we have the learning channel. This place now, Photoshop has some tutorial for you already. Should in case you want to learn using their already made what tutorial, you can come here and click on learn. But I'm not sure if we need that. Libraries, adjustment, we don't need all of this. So you can just come down to this dialog symbol, click on it, and what? Close tab group. So that place is no longer there. No matter how, you need layouts, you need channels, you need what? Paths. These ones are very, very useful tool for you that you're going to be using. So you need to retain them. You don't need your color palettes here, you don't need swatch, you don't need them. So just click on this dialog button, then you do what? You close the tab group. So you can see your workspace is getting neater now. So here is your what? Your layouts, here is your channel, here is your path. I know you don't understand what all these things means. Don't worry, we are going to understand everything. And this place is your property panel. So here is your what? Property panel. In case if there is any other panel, I know you might be getting it confusing now. I call it channel before and I'm calling it panel now. You can choose any one of your choice, but I think panel is more professional. So this is your property panel. Let's take for instance that you have something on this Canva. If you have anything on this Canva, then you want to know the property of that stuff, you can just come down to this place and click on it. Then it's going to show you the property. Okay, we are going to work on that. Now let's take for instance that you need some other panels, but you can't find them here. Just come down to your window. Then here are enough panels that you can work with. Are you getting this now? Layer panel is already there. That's why you get it thick like this. Let's take for instance that I want to click on the graphics panel. I need it. If I click on it, it's going to show up. I get it. I can see it has been added to this place. So let me just close it. You can see it has been added to this place. Now you know what it is as we move on. So now that I don't need it, what I just need to do is to drag it out. Let me drag it out and then click on this place. So it's gone. Now let us start by looking at all these tools, how they work. Now, do you know what makes Photoshop kind of complex for you to understand? Let me tell you those things that make it difficult for you to understand. It's because you learn what you don't understand. It's because you cram everything that you're supposed to understand. Please and please, in this class, don't cram anything, but just understand everything. I'm going to be explaining everything for you, how they work in detail. You know, I can't teach you design. You are the one to teach yourself how to design. Trust me. If I teach you how to design a particular thing, by default, you cannot design more than that thing. You get where I'm coming from now? If I teach you how to design a particular thing, you can't design more than that thing. But if I teach you how everything works, if I teach you this is what this will work for, you can use this to create anything of your choice. Are we together? Am I making sense? Okay, if that should be the case, let me bring in one of the documents that I've worked on, and that will assist us to work very well. Now I think I have it in my home screen, so click on this. Let's open this document. It's fine. Okay, here is my document. Let me just clear this ruler and blah blah blah. Okay, clear guide. Okay, here is my document right away here, and you can all see it. Now I will not want to rush you, and I don't want you to rush yourself. In this class I will only teach you the important tools. Every other tools, as we move on, you get to know what they work for. You have to learn a software step by step. Don't rush to learn everything. Okay guys, if If I want to know the size of this document, where am I going to check that from? Thank you. Just come down to this place. You can see it is 3000 pixels by 3000 pixels, and that's why when you see it, you can see that it's very, very sharp. Even if the resolution is what, 72, can you see, despite the small resolution, it's still sharp. That's to tell you that resolution has its own parts to play, but it's not actually what is responsible for making your design sharp, but it has its own role to play. I will explain that to you as we go on. Okay, now let's take for instance that you don't get what you want here. Look at this arrow, click on it. You can see it shows you your document dimensions, your document profile, your document size. Maybe you want to change the document size and so on. This is where you get them here. Is that taken out? Okay, that's cool. So let's come back to this place now. Like I said earlier, I will only be teaching you what you need here. And when I say what you need, what you are going to be working with, in Photoshop, we only have 4 important tools that you need to know how they work. You get where I'm coming from now? You need to know how they work. Forget about everything that looks so cumbersome like this. Forget about it. Everything is so easy. They are very, very simple to understand. Now, what are those 4 things that you need to know? We are going to be talking about them now. The first one is the move to, and the shortcut is V. The move to is the most important tool that you want to know how to use in Photoshop. Once you click on it, the shortcut is what? V. Just hit V on your keyboard, then it's going to take you, automatically select the move to. Now let's take for instance that I want to move privilege from this place to another place. So what I will just do is to come down to this my layer panel here. This is our layer panel. Because how Photoshop work is this. Let me show you something. All of these things that you are seeing, all these designs that you are seeing, they are layers. You can see? Can you see them? Can you see? This is the working space. Now let me quickly explain this to you. Although in our next class we are going to be talking about layer, but just for you to understand something here right now, what this layer is meant for. This layer is like you have what? You have a plain sheet of paper. This is a plain sheet of paper, and you decided to color it black. Then you draw an image on it. Then you color the face of that image. Then you add another color to it. Then you add a rectangle. Then you add another what? Rectangle. Then you add a text. Then you add another text. You add another text. You add another text. Can you see now? It's now become something awesome. Can you see? Very simple to design. You get where I'm coming from right now. So that is what layer simply means. It's telling you what you do next, what you do next, what you do next on a plain paper, and anyone you don't need out of it, just delete it. It's no longer there. It's not going to affect the remaining ones. Don't worry, I will do justice to this in the next class. Okay, let's come back to what we are trying to explain, and that is the move to. Now I want to move privilege, so I'll just come here. Don't forget my brand name is Privilege Signature. So this is Privilege here now. Of course you can see my face. Yeah, that's what my boss usually said. It's like you can see my face. Okay, let's go on. So you can see the way I move it around now, because I'm on the move to, and that's why I can move it to anywhere of my choice. So if I want to move another thing also, I'll just look for that thing here. Let's say keep creating. I click on it here and I start moving it around. Can you see? I can take it to anywhere I want. That's the function of the move to. For you, it allows you to move things around. Are you getting it now? Now you can see when I click on the move to, something pop up at this top side here. Anytime you click on any tool out of all these toolbar, the properties of that tool is what will pop up at this uppermost side here. Now we have auto select here. If I click on the auto select, what the auto select is trying to let you understand is that any of the stuff that you click on, like if I click on keep creating now, like I have it here now, it will automatically select it. Excuse me. Okay, so you can see I already check let me check the auto select now, and I just select privilege. Can you see if I select privilege now? Okay, sorry, there's a mistake here. Leave this auto select. This auto select. Okay, let me tell you how this auto select works. I can just click on something like this. You can see I don't need to go into the, what's it called, into the layers panel to go and select this stuff. Remember, if I hold this auto select and I click on this privilege, it's not going to click. Can you see? It's not clicking. It's on privilege now. If I click on this now, it does not select it. Can you see? I have to go to this place before I can actually select it. So let me come to Z now, but without me going to this place, if I click on auto select, can you see now? And I just click on privilege, it automatically selects it. If I click on keep creating, it automatically selects it. If I click on this rectangle, it automatically selects it. Now let me tell you where the problem lies. You can see I don't intend to touch this rectangle, but it has touched it. Abi, that is the problem of auto select. That's the reason why it's not good for you to select, because it's going to select what you don't intend to select, especially if you have a lot of layers that pile up on just one layer. It makes your work go rough. So let's come to Z, back to normal what we have. So let's uncheck it now. Now we have this the transform control. What this transform control does is that normally if I want to, let me uncheck it and see something. Let's take for instance that I want to increase the size of this privilege. If I click on privilege here now, I want to increase the size. For me to be able to transform it, if I want to increase the size or decrease it, I actually want to transform it. Abi, fine. If I want to do that, I'll click on Control and T. Control T simply means what? Transform. So you can see this sign now coming up. So I can drag it here to increase the size. Can you see the size is increasing? And I can also reduce the size. Can you get this now? Fine. But let me now explain something. Like I said when we were about to start the class, I don't need to click on Shift before I expand regularly. If you don't want it to distort, you always want to hold Shift, especially those using Illustrator. You want to hold Shift so that you can move it without distorting. There's no need if you are using Photoshop 2018 or you are using Photoshop 2020 or 2021. But if you are using Photoshop 2019, there is need for you to hold down Shift before you can do what? Before you can expand or transform it regularly without distorting. That I don't know why they actually make it like that, but that's the problem with Photoshop 2019, and that's what I intend to explain to you. Either you drag this one here, I listen it now, it's not going to distort. Anywhere you want to drag it, it's not going to distort. But if you want it to distort, click on your Shift. By the time you click on Shift, it will distort. Can you see? I'm holding Shift now, and that's why it's distorting. Is that taken now? So that's that about that. Now you can see before I can transform, I have to click on what? I have to click on the Control T so that it's going to show the transform to. But if I click on show transform control, if I check it here out of this property here, any of the thing I select, it automatically show the transform to. So I don't need to click on Control T before I actually increase or decrease. My own is just to click on that particular stuff. Once I click on it like this, I automatically increase the size. There's no need of clicking on Ctrl T or something, but I just like clicking on Ctrl T, so I'll uncheck it. Now what these ones work for is that, let's take for instance now that I want to maybe justify privilege to the left or to the right. That's what all this one work for. And let me just show you something. Let me click on privilege and keep creating. Can you see? I've clicked on the two now. Now what I'm telling Photoshop right now is that I want these two, I want to justify one in respect to the other. So if I click on this one now, you can see it takes privilege to go and meet what? Keep creating. Can you see that now? Okay, so that is how this place. So if I want it to be at its center, you can see. If I want it to be at the other way around, so it's now in the same line with this G right now. Are you seeing it now? If I want it to come to the top of it, it's already at the top. Can you see? Can you see now? If I want it to come to the down part of it, can you see? It should. Now you can see privilege has come down to the down part of it now. That is how all this one actually work, and all these ones we talk about them as we move on in this course. Is that taken now? So I believe you understand how move to actually works now. So that's that about that. And what's the shortcut again? V. Just hit V. Let's take for instance that I'm on brush 2 and I click on V. It will automatically take me to my what? My move to. That's the shortcut. Okay. Please let me check something, because at times this thing used to do crazy stuff. Okay, let's go on, guys. Okay, now the second most important tool that you need to know in Photoshop is brush 2. What do I call it? Brush 2. B for brush. No, this is brush 2. I'm clicking on eyedropper before, so this is what? Brush 2, and the shortcut for it is what? B. So once you click on it, the property of the brush tool will show above, just like you have the move to property showing above. Any of the two that you click on, their property will show above. Now here we have the what? The brush panel, where you can select any type of brush that you want. Now I would like to express myself for you guys. Now let me create a new layer at the topmost layer. Now if I want to create a new layer, I'll just come here and click on this plus button. Can you see? Once you click on it, you have an empty layer now created. So my brush tool, I can come here. I have different type of brushes. We have the soft round brush. A lot of brushes are here. So this one is soft round brush. You can select anyone, and you can also download brushes online. Different type of brush, we have it online there. So, and here is where you control the size, and here is where you control the hardness. You get to understand what they call the hardness and the softness of the brush as we go on while doing this course. Now let me click on this water splash what's it called, brush. I'll select the, let me select the water splash brush. What's happening? Okay, so I've selected the water splash brush. Now if I want to increase the size, I can increase the size there. Can you see the size has increased? Okay, can you see it now? I've increased the size. Let me decrease the size. I can decrease the size. Now what if you want to use shortcuts to increase or decrease the size? All you just need to do is to use your brackets, but it can't work here because I'm opening this place. Now let me close this place. If I close this place now, okay, fine. So you can see I've closed it now. If I want to increase the size of this brush, this my square bracket, the right one is to increase. You can see it's increasing now. Then the left one is to reduce. That's the shortcut. The square bracket is the shortcut to increase your size of brush. And see what will happen if I automatically click here. Okay, let me just click here now. Can you see? You can see the water splash coming up now. If I put it here also, can you see? Can you see the water splash? If I select another type of brush also, don't worry, this water splash is taking the color of my foreground color. The color that you have at the front here is the foreground, while the one you have at the back is the what? The background color. Normally, if you want to set it back to default, if it is in default, it's going to be in black and white. Just click on D on your keyboard. Once you click on D, it's going to what? It's going to set it to default, which is black and white. So any color that you have at this foreground color is the color that will be showing. Let me, if I want to change this color now to, if I want the background color to be the foreground color, I'll click on. Okay, so you can now see that the foreground color now appear, sorry, the background color now appear as the what? As the foreground color now, because when you press X, what happens is that it will help you automatically change it. And if you don't want to press X, you can just press this particular icon here. It will also help you to toggle between the foreground and the background color. So that's that about the brush tool. So I can delete this layer now since it's not needed. Okay. Excuse me please. Okay, So let's go on now. So the next tool after the move tool, which the shortcut happens to be V, the brush tool, the shortcut happens to be what, B. Then we have the text tool. That's the next most important tool. So once you click on your text tool and you hit your screen, what will happen is that it's going to pop out the dummy text. What is dummy text? Let me increase the size of the dummy text just because I think I'm using a very large pixel, so you need a very large value before you can see what is going to be on it. So you can see what it is now. What this dummy text is working for is to tell you how the font that you want to use will look like when you use it to write. So if you don't like it, you can just change your font here, because like I told you earlier, once you click on any tool here, the property of that tool will display at this top panel. So here is font, so I can change this to Roboto now. If I change this to Roboto, I can change into another family of Roboto. So that's bold. You can see this is how my text will look like if I want to write. So, and I can type anything I want. So I don't know if you have also observed it. If they give you pen to write anything, the first thing you want to write is your name. Likewise, if they give you keyboard to type anything, the first thing you want to type is your name. So here is my surname, Adejumobi, fine name, cool. I can change the color of this thing by clicking here. So if I change the color, let me pick red, because okay, you can see, so I have passion for what I'm doing, so that's why I'm using red. Okay, and here now you can just justify either to the left or to the right or to the center. It's a choice. And this particular one can help you to actually change your text to curve or arc, anything. You can see. Can you see now? So we have more options of how your text can look like in this particular point here. So, and that's how the property panel works. Now let's take for instance that I mistakenly click on the move tool, thinking that I'm done with my text. Now I want to pop up the property panel again. I can do that in two ways. Number one rather, I can double click on this what's it called, on this frame. If I double click on it, it will automatically select the text and the property will pop up. And if you don't want to use that option, you can just come down to this place. This is property panel. Click on the property panel, then it's going to display the property of the text for you. Here you can increase the tracking. I guess in tracking is the space between each letter, so I believe we'll know that. We're going to be talking about that if I'm teaching typography in the class. This is your what? This is tracking, this is the canny, and the other ones we're going to be looking at that in the class. We are just talking about software here. So that's how you can pop up your property if in case you accidentally click on the move tool and you no longer see it here again. So it's as simple as that. What's the next tool after the text tool? The another important tool that you need to understand how it works is this zoom tool, especially for those who are going to be editing picture, like you are doing retouching or you are doing photo manipulation, movie posters. You need your move tool very well. So if I click on the move tool, what will happen is that it will automatically pop up the property at the top side of the screen, just like every other tool also. If I click on 100%, it's zooming 100%, and you can see the details of my beard. Abby, do you like it? Okay, don't worry, pray for one. If I want this to fit the screen, I'll just click on fit to screen. Can you see? If I want this to full the screen, I'll click on this. Can you see the way it works now? That's a property of this now. Now let's take for instance that I don't want any of these. Maybe it's not suitable for what you actually want to do. Another thing you can do is that if you click on plus and you keep on hitting the the screen, it's zoom and zoom and zoom until you are satisfied. And when you click on minus and you are clicking on it, it's going to zoom in. Are you getting it now? I think okay, this is zoom out. Zoom in is to come out. Anyone? Just can you see the way it works now? Okay. If I don't want to use the above property, how can I do my zooming again? Yes, I can do it in another way around. And how? Click on Control and plus. When you click on Control plus, it will automatically fit to screen. Sorry, Control and 0, not O. Control and 0, Z-E-R-O. Control and 0 will let you fit to screen. Now, let's say I want to zoom in. I'll click on Control and minus. You can see Control and minus is zooming it in. If I click on Control and plus, can you see? So that is the shortcut of zoom key. And another shortcut that you need to know how to use is that when you zoom, when you fit the screen like this, and let's say you zoom in like this, zoom out like this, can you see? And you want to move around, and you just click on the space bar. Once you click on the space bar, this hand will show. Then you can use the hand to move from one place to another on the image. So let's fit the screen back, and that's that about the 4 most important tools that you need to understand how they work in Photoshop. And this is where I'm going to limit us. You are going to learn every other tool, how they work, as we go on in this course. Am I making sense now? Because the problem we always have that makes everything look too technical for us to deal with is that we want to learn the whole of the tool at a go. No, take it one step at a time. Okay, let's come back to this place now. Transparency. I can transparent anything here by reducing the opacity. Are you getting this now? So if I reduce the opacity of privilege signature, okay, I think that one is okay. Let me just click on privilege and reduce the opacity. When I reduce the opacity to 0, when you reduce opacity of something to 0, you are giving it 100% transparency. 0 opacity means what? 100% transparency, and that's why you are not seeing it here again, but it's actually there. It's actually there. Now let me show you something for you to know that it's actually there. Let's come down to this place. Let me increase what's it called? Let me increase the opacity to 100. When your opacity is 100, it means 100% opacity means what? 100% opaque. What is opaque? Opaque are those materials that does not allow light to pass through them and you cannot see through them. So when you put it 100% opacity, it has become an opaque. Is that taken out? Now let me show you something. I want to explain the difference between opacity and fill. They function like they are the same thing, but they are actually not the same thing. They function like they are the same thing, but they are not the same thing. And I would like you to see the difference by yourself. Let me quickly add shadow to this privilege. Or better still, let me create another document. Let me create a new document. Okay, and then I want to give this document a color. I can just click on, for me to give it a color is always good if I come down to my adjustment layer. I'll be explaining that layer later. I'll choose solid color in my adjustment layer. I like blue, so let me just pick blue. Okay, this is cool. Now let me pick my text too. Okay, if I pick my text too, and okay, let me reduce the size of the text. Okay, let me just write create. Okay, so this creates now. It's okay. Now click on the move tool. What's the shortcut for the move tool again? V. So let's take it here. Let's say I want to centralize this text now. I want it to be at the center. Let me increase the size a bit. Now let's say I want to keep it to be at the center. How will I set it to the center? Click on Ctrl A. When you click on Ctrl A, it will automatically select all the canvas. Then just click on this center here. Can you see it has centralized it? If I want it to centralize it vertically, I'll click on this one and it centralizes it vertically. But do I need that? No. Let me just take, okay, so Ctrl D to deselect. So you can take this one up now. Ctrl A to select the whole of the canvas and centralize it. So Ctrl D to deselect. Okay, fine. So I will add shadow to this text now. So just come here. You can double click on this place. If you double click on it, it's going to show you the, what's it called, blending options. Are you getting this now? But if you don't want to double click on it, you can right click on it and click on blend option. Okay, if that place, if you are not satisfied with that place also, you can come down to, you can see that Photoshop is fun. You have different way of getting to where you are going. Okay, click on this F of X, then you click on blend option. It takes you to the same place you want to go, guys. Okay, so let me just click on drop shadow. Okay, although this is functioning, if I click on the drop shadow, it's going to show me the properties of the drop shadow here, right? So I can decrease it. I've actually used this to create something before. That's why you can see this big value. like that. So I use this to create some effects. Okay, no worry, we learn more of that. This spread is to tell you how much more the shadow will spread, but I don't like my shadow. I always keep it at 0, and this will tell you the size of the shadow. And this particular one, you can actually control the distance from here. Can you see now? You can see as you are taking this one elsewhere, you can see the distance is changing, the angle is changing. So I can just place it exactly like this. When you're okay, you can just drop it, and I think this is fine. So you click on okay. Let me set the blending mode to multiply. It's just a choice, and if I do that now, okay, can you see? Okay, you guys, you can see this is even looking beautiful without even doing something on it. That's why you just need to understand your cake. Photoshop, graphic design, they are very simple. Just explore. Now let me reduce the opacity and tell me what you observe. If I reduce the opacity to 0, can you see everything is no longer there? Okay, let me return it back to 100%. Now let me reduce the fill. Let me reduce the fill. Sorry, my phone. If I reduce the fill to 0, can you see what happened? You can see when I reduce the fill to 0, you can see I can still see what I create. But when I reduce the shadow to the opacity to 0, you see I don't see anything. That's to tell you that opacity is to deal with the whole of its content. But what's it called? The fill will only deal with the uppermost. It's going to what? It's going to treat everything to be the same. Are you getting this now? It's not going to take everything away completely. Let me just put it like that in a simple way. Can you see what I have here? And you can see this can also, if I increase it a bit now, I can just use this to create some effects. Can you see? And you'll be asking me, what color did you use? I don't know. Guys, graphic design is quite simple and awesome. This is how I create crazy things when I just sit down and looking at my working space. Can you see how the difference between opacity and fill now? So it's just as simple as that. So let's come back to where we are. Now the next thing I want to show us now is how to save documents in Photoshop, and that will be the last aspect of the class. In the next class, we are going to be looking at layer extensively. In Photoshop or in design, we have a lot of layers, but we have 4 important layers that you need to know to come up with a successful design. Are you getting it now? We are going to be discussing that in the next class. How do I save my document? I can either save my document in 5 different ways. I can save my document as a JPEG, I can save it as PSD, I can save it as PNG, I can save it as PDF, I can save it as GIF. You are going to understand everything, but I will only deal with 3 in this class, and that's the PSD, the JPEG, and the PNG. The JPEG is to help you to save your document in a small size, but the problem is that it's not transparent. JPEG is not what? Transparent. What do I mean by JPEG is not transparent? Let me show you something. Okay, excuse me please. So let me just off all these things. Okay. Oh, see my real face. Okay guys, this is transparent background. Now this background does not have anything, and this is my picture on it. Now if I want to save this as JPEG now, so I'll just come down. What's happening? Okay, sorry. Okay, so I'll just come down to this place and click on what? File, then come as save as, click on the save as, then save on computer. I'll come here and change this one to become JPEG. Can you see? So once you click on JPEG, let me just save it on the screen and click on save. Okay, I have something like that there before, so let me just replace it. So now let me explain something to you. You can see immediately I save as JPEG. What do you see? It brings background because JPEG is not transparent. Now how does this quality work? This quality tells you how sharp your image will look. You can see when I reduce the quality, can you see what happened? Reducing the quality will make the size to reduce more. Increasing the quality will make the image to sharp more, and also the size will increase. You can see the size is now 2.7 megabytes. So just click on OK and you save it like that. Can you just see? So when you save a document as JPEG, it will have a background. But if I save document as PNG, PNG can actually be transparent because that's one of its characteristics. So if I save as PNG, I'll just come here, save as, click on the save as, and then I have this, then JPEG, PNG. So I'll select PNG here. So this PNG, save. I have something like that there before. Okay, so, and by the time you're going to see it now, it will remain transparent. It will remain transparent. So here is, can you see it? So you can see it's still, this is the new document I bring in now. So look at the previous one, you can see it's still transparent. Can you see? So PNG transparent, JPEG does not. Can you get that cleared now? Oh, awesome. Now what about PSD? PSD is to save your document such that you can actually edit it in a large form. So like this particular design of mine, you can see I can do anything on it because I save it as PSD. PSD means Photoshop document. Is that taken now? So that's that about today's class, guys. What I want you to do is to master all these things that we've discussed in this class. Don't forget, Ctrl Z is to what? Undo. If you want to redo in Photoshop, just like in Illustrator, you click on Ctrl Shift and Z. Ctrl Shift and Z. That's what you used to do, redo in Photoshop. Okay guys, without any further ado, I'd like to call it a day. But before I go, I want to give you a tip, information or advice. Look, Photoshop is just a software. You are powerful than Photoshop, intelligent than Photoshop. Therefore, don't restrict yourself because of its technicality. Learn everything step by step and you can create amazing things. Good day.